Put on your headphones for the best experience. My name is Emily. I'm 33 years old. And until recently, I believed my life was simple and peaceful. I lived in a small house with my husband, Henry. The house was not big or luxurious, but it was warm, filled with the small routines that make a marriage feel safe and comfortable. Henry was a gentle man. Every morning, he woke up before me and made coffee in the kitchen. Sometimes, the smell of fresh toast and coffee would drift into the bedroom and slowly pull me out of sleep. He would smile when I walked in. "Good morning, Emily," he would say softly. And for years, mornings like that made me feel loved. But slowly, something began to change. At first, it was just a small feeling, a strange heaviness in my body. I began waking up every morning, feeling as if I hadn't slept at all. My arms felt weak, my head felt foggy. Even simple things, like walking to the kitchen or getting dressed for work, suddenly felt exhausting. I tried to ignore it. Everyone gets tired, I told myself. But the tiredness did not go away. Weeks turned into months. Some mornings, I struggled just to get out of bed, my body feeling like someone had pressed invisible weights onto my shoulders. Henry noticed the change immediately. One evening, he sat beside me on the couch and looked at me with worried eyes. "Emily," he said gently, "you need to see a doctor." I shook my head. "It's just stress." My job was demanding, and I often worked long hours. I thought maybe I simply needed a break. But Henry didn't look convinced. "No," he said quietly, "this isn't normal." He reached for my hand. "Please, for me, let's see a doctor." I looked at his face and saw how worried he truly was. So, finally, I agreed. A few days later, Henry told me he had found a specialist. "His name is Dr. Milton. A friend recommended him. He's supposed to be one of the best." Henry even took a day off work to come with me. On the drive to the clinic, he held my hand gently. "Everything will be okay," he said. "We'll find out what's wrong." I wanted to believe him, but deep inside, I felt a strange fear growing. What if something really was wrong with me? Dr. Milton's office looked different from most clinics I had seen. The waiting room was quiet and beautifully decorated. Expensive furniture, the scent of fresh flowers. It felt less like a hospital and more like a luxury office. When Dr. Milton called us inside, I noticed he was a tall man with sharp eyes and a very serious expression. He asked me questions. "How long have you felt this fatigue? Do you have headaches? Dizziness?" I answered every question carefully while Henry sat beside me, listening silently. I could feel his hand holding mine tightly. He seemed even more nervous than I was. After the examination, blood pressure, heartbeat, reflexes, the doctor leaned back in his chair. Henry squeezed my hand. We both waited. Dr. Milton looked at me and smiled. "Mrs. Emily," he said calmly, "I have good news. There is nothing wrong with you. You are perfectly healthy." I blinked in confusion. "Nothing?" "Your tests are all normal. Sometimes stress can make the body feel weak. You simply need rest." He smiled again. "Maybe take a vacation." Relief rushed through me. I turned toward Henry and smiled. "I'm healthy." Henry smiled back, but for just a moment, something about his smile looked strange, a little forced. I was too relieved to think about it. We thanked the doctor and walked out into the waiting room. I believed the worst was over. But as we turned to leave, something happened that would change everything I thought I knew about my husband. Just as we were about to leave the building, Henry suddenly stopped. "Emily, wait here for a moment. I forgot to ask the doctor something about the payment." I nodded and sat down on one of the chairs. The door to Dr. Milton's office had not closed completely. It remained slightly open. I was just sitting there, still feeling the relief of the clean bill of health. But then, something caught my eye. Through the small opening, I could see Henry walking back into the doctor's office. He didn't speak. Instead, he slowly reached into his coat pocket and took out a white envelope. It looked thick, like it was full of money. My heart began to beat faster. I watched silently as Henry handed the envelope to Dr. Milton. The doctor didn't even open it. He simply took the envelope and quickly slipped it inside his desk drawer. Then, Henry turned around and walked out. A moment later, he came back to the waiting room, smiling. "Okay, let's go." As we walked toward the car, a strange feeling began building inside me. People usually pay doctors at the front desk. The receptionist takes the payment. There is a receipt. But Henry had given the doctor a secret envelope. Why? In the car, Henry started talking cheerfully. "I feel so much better now. I was really worried about you, Emily. Now we know you're perfectly fine." He started the engine and continued excitedly. "What do you think about that vacation the doctor mentioned? The beach, or maybe the mountains?" But I was no longer listening. My mind was stuck on one image, the white envelope. "Henry," I said quietly. He glanced at me. "Yes?" "Why did you give the doctor that envelope?" Immediately, his smile disappeared. "What are you talking about?" "I saw you," I said. "You went back into his office. You gave him a white envelope. It looked like it was full of money." He was silent for a few seconds. Then he gave a small laugh. "Oh, that? It's nothing." "What do you mean, nothing?" He kept his eyes on the road. "Dr. Milton is an old friend of one of my colleagues. He's having some financial problems. I was just helping him." "Helping him?" I repeated. "Yes, it's just a loan." But the explanation didn't feel right. A doctor with a beautiful office, expensive furniture, and private staff, needing a secret loan? Right after my appointment? "Why did you give it to him secretly?" I asked. Henry sighed. "Emily, please, it's a private matter. He's embarrassed about his situation. I promised I wouldn't tell anyone." He looked at me and forced a smile. "Can we just be happy that you're healthy? Let's not ruin this good day with silly questions." Silly questions. The words stung more than I expected. Henry had always been honest with me. At least, that's what I believed. I stopped asking. "Okay," I said quietly. But inside my heart, something had changed. The relief I felt earlier had disappeared. In its place, a quiet suspicion had taken root. Over the next few weeks, I tried to believe the doctor. I tried to believe Henry. "You're healthy," I kept telling myself. But my body told a different story. I was still tired, still dizzy, still weak. And one afternoon at work, something happened that made it impossible to ignore anymore. The room suddenly spun around me. The world went dark for a moment. And before I could stop it, my head hit the desk. When I opened my eyes, my boss, Mrs. Darcy, was standing beside me with a worried expression. "Emily," she said gently, "perfectly healthy people don't almost faint in the middle of the office. Maybe you should see another doctor." Those words stayed in my mind all evening. Another doctor. But seeing another doctor meant something else. It meant I didn't trust Henry. And for the first time in my marriage, I wasn't sure that I did. That night, I told Henry what had happened. He looked concerned, just like always. "Oh, my poor Emily. You're working too hard." He placed a gentle hand on my shoulder. "The doctor already told us. It's stress. You just need to rest, he smiled. Maybe take some time off work. His voice was calm and caring, but something about his answer bothered me. He never once suggested seeing another doctor, not even after I nearly collapsed. And that was the moment when my doubt became impossible to ignore. A few days later, something happened that made everything worse. Henry was in the shower. His phone was lying on the table in the living room. I had never looked through his phone before. I trusted him. But suddenly the phone buzzed with a message. For a few seconds, I stared at it. Then, slowly, I picked it up. The message was from a contact saved as Dr. Milton. My heart started beating faster. I opened the message. "The next payment is due next week. Please don't be late." Payment. Not loan. Payment. My hands began to shake. I scrolled up through the conversation. There were several calls between them, more messages. They talked regularly. And suddenly, the memory of the white envelope came flooding back. Henry hadn't been helping the doctor. He had been paying him. But why? At that moment, Henry walked out of the bathroom. He saw me holding his phone. "Everything okay, honey?" he asked. "You look pale." I quickly put the phone down. "Yes," I said, "just tired." He smiled and kissed my forehead. But that night, I couldn't sleep. Why was Henry paying the doctor? Why would a doctor lie about my health? Was Henry hiding something from me? Or worse, was he trying to hurt me? The thought terrified me. By morning, I knew one thing. I needed the truth. I remembered what Mrs. Darcy had suggested. Another doctor. I decided not to tell Henry. If he was hiding something, I didn't want him to stop me. I found a small women's clinic in the next town and told Mrs. Darcy I needed a sick day. Then I quietly took a bus. My hands were cold the whole journey. My heart was racing. Because there was another terrifying possibility. What if Dr. Milton was right? What if the new doctor also told me I was perfectly healthy? Then it would mean the problem was not my body. It would mean something was wrong with my mind. The clinic looked nothing like Dr. Milton's office. Smaller, busier, more ordinary. But somehow it felt more honest. The doctor who saw me was a woman named Dr. Lauren. She had kind eyes and spoke gently. I told her everything. The constant tiredness, the dizziness, the headaches, and the strange feeling that something was not right. When I finished, she looked at me carefully. "It sounds like you've been going through a very difficult time," she said. "But we will figure this out together." Her words gave me a small breath of hope. Dr. Lauren ordered several blood tests and examinations. When everything was finished, she looked at me seriously. "I don't want to scare you," she said, "but you don't look well. We need to check everything carefully. It could be something serious." Finally, someone believed me. The test results took several days. Those days felt endless. At home, Henry acted the same as always, cooking my favorite meals, smiling, asking if I was feeling better. "See," he said one evening, "the doctor was right. You just needed rest." I simply nodded. Inside, I was waiting. Finally, the clinic called. The results were ready. I took the bus again and returned to Dr. Lauren's office. When I walked inside, I noticed immediately. She was not smiling. Her face looked serious. She asked me to sit down. My hands were shaking. "Emily," she said gently, "we got your test results." My heart felt like it stopped. "You are not healthy." The room suddenly felt very quiet. "You have a medical condition affecting your brain. That is why you feel constant fatigue and dizziness. Tears filled my eyes. I wasn't imagining it. I wasn't crazy. I was actually sick. The illness is serious, she continued, but the good news is we can treat it. With proper medication, many people live completely normal lives. Then she paused. But treatment should have started much earlier. She looked confused. You said you saw another doctor before? Yes, I whispered. Dr. Milton. I told her everything. The appointment, Henry, the white envelope. Dr. Lauren's eyes widened. Your husband paid the doctor to tell you that you were healthy? Her voice became serious. That's not just unethical, Emily. That's illegal. He put your life in danger. In that moment, the truth hit me harder than anything before. The man who promised to protect me had paid someone to lie about my illness. After leaving the clinic, I sat quietly on the bus ride home. The city passed outside the window, but I barely noticed it. My mind held only one thought. Henry, the man I had loved for years. The man who made coffee every morning and held my hand at doctor's offices. The man who had paid a doctor to lie, while I slowly got sicker. I did not cry. I felt too shocked for tears. When I walked inside, Henry was in the kitchen cooking dinner. He turned with his usual warm smile. Hi, honey. How was your day? I didn't answer. I walked to the kitchen table and placed Dr. Lauren's medical report in front of him. Henry looked at the papers. At first, he seemed confused. Then his face slowly turned pale. His hands began to shake. I know, I said quietly. I know everything, Henry. He covered his face with his hands. Emily, I can explain. I felt a strange calm inside me. Explain what? I asked. Explain why you paid a doctor to lie to me? Explain why you watched me get sicker every day. Explain why you made me believe I was imagining everything. Henry began to cry. I was scared, he said. I was so scared. Scared of what? He wiped his face with shaking hands. My mother had the same illness. I watched her suffer for years. His voice cracked. She got weaker and weaker. The hospitals, the treatments, it destroyed our family. When you started showing the same symptoms, I was terrified. I stared at him in disbelief. So instead of helping me, I said slowly, you decided to pretend nothing was wrong? Henry looked down. I thought, maybe if we didn't know, maybe it would go away. I didn't want our life to become hospitals and medicine. I just wanted more time with you. For a moment, I could hardly believe what I was hearing. He hadn't done it for me. He had done it for himself, to protect himself from his own fear. You knew your mother had treatment, I said quietly. Yes, he admitted. But you decided I didn't deserve that chance, I finished. Silence filled the kitchen. The man standing in front of me suddenly felt like a stranger. I love you, Emily, he said desperately. That's why I did it. I shook my head slowly. No, I said. That's not love. Love doesn't lie. Love doesn't hide from fear. Love faces it, together. I walked into the bedroom and began packing a small suitcase. Henry followed me. Please, Emily, don't leave. We can fix this. I'll do anything. But I kept folding my clothes quietly. Finally, I looked at him. The trust is gone, I said softly. Every time I look at you, I will remember the lie. I will remember the days I felt sick while you told me I was fine. I called Mrs. Darcy. I told her everything. She didn't hesitate. "You can stay with me as long as you need." I walked to the front door with my suitcase. Henry stood behind me, crying. This time, I didn't turn around. I opened the door and stepped outside. The air felt cold, but also strangely freeing. Soon after, I filed for divorce. It was not an easy decision, but sometimes the people who claim to love us can hurt us in the deepest ways. And sometimes, real strength means choosing yourself. I began treatment with Dr. Lauren. The road ahead was not easy, but at least now I knew the truth. And truth, even when it hurts, is always better than living inside a lie. My name is Emily, and I learned something important from this experience. True love does not hide from fear. It faces it, honestly, together. And so, our story comes to an end for tonight. I hope it brought you peace and a little bit of magic. If you enjoyed this journey, please leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, sleep well and sweet dreams.